Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the homeless are moving back into parks in Seattle, but were they ever really gone? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you nuts?
Over the weekend, Elon Musk pantsed everybody on Twitter. What does that exactly mean? He unveiled a new feature on X, where now you can see what country somebody is tweeting from. Now, as Mike said in an email to me earlier when he was sending me some stories on this, today is when everybody found out what a VPN is. I have only used VPNs when I travel abroad, and I can't get some of the content I want on Netflix or some other streaming service. A VPN is a virtual private network, which creates, according to our friend ChatGPT, a secure private connection between your device and the internet. But basically what it does is it kind of masks where you actually are in the world. Now, what Twitter did was it showed where you're from and where your connection of your Twitter app is being streamed from, for lack of a better word. And what we found out is a whole bunch of these accounts that claim they're pro-American, that claim they're in Gaza, that claim they're wherever else in the world are not. And odds are they're probably bots from bot farms somewhere else. Is this surprising? No. I've literally been saying this is what has likely been happening for the better part of 6 months. 6 months. And I come back to the analogy I use all the time, which is the latest Superman movie. No, it's not woke. There's an American flag in basically every scene of that movie. Here's the thing about the Superman movie. I'm going to use the analogy one more time. Throughout the movie, whenever people see Superman, we love you, Superman. Yay, Superman. Here, have a falafel, Superman. We love you so much. And then online on the internet, people are saying awful things about Superman. And you can't wrap your head around why this is happening. When Superman is captured by Lex Luthor and gets taken to the pocket dimension, the pocket universe, what happens there, which is Lex Luthor's kind of, I guess, his junk bin for the galaxy, you find out that he has genetically engineered monkeys running a bot farm. When I saw this movie, I literally laughed out loud in the theater when it happened, because it was right around the time the U.S. was bombing Iran. And I remember Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and their ilk saying, Trump's going to get us into World War III. I'm not dying for Israel. Why are we bombing Iran? And all these people were eating it up. But now we know a lot of those accounts were bot accounts. A lot of them, not who they said they were. We're finding this out not just with Republicans, not just with MAGA, not just with Israel, with Democrats, with Ukraine, with Russia, you name it. This is a new form of technological warfare that's going on right now and screwing with our national conversation. My favorite one is the founder of America First, AIPAC Tracker, the American Israel Political Affairs Committee, which up until recently didn't actually give money to any campaigns. They just took people on free trips to Israel. Turns out it's a self-proclaimed Marxist who lives in Germany. It's been very entertaining going through a lot of accounts. I pulled up some old accounts, my friends. This isn't just something that had to do with Israel. This isn't just something that had to do with Ukraine. This isn't just something that had to do with MAGA. This isn't just something that had to do with Democrats. You remember the Semi-Bird campaign? Mike, I didn't tell you this yet today. I went to some of those old accounts to track those down too. Some of them were real. Some of them definitely bots from other places. Like I said, the entire thing was Democrat insanity. Told you so. Told you so. This is the kind of insanity we saw coming a mile away. This AIPAC tracker, the self-proclaimed Marxist who lives in Germany, who hates Jews. Oh, a German who doesn't like Jews? Oh, okay. She's lived in Kuwait, the Philippines, and now Germany, all while volunteering with various U.S. left-wing groups. Anybody surprised by this at all? So I decided to take this to the next level. Use this little feature. And what I did was I started looking up various accounts. Washington House Democrats. This is my favorite. This is my absolute favorite. Connected via the United States App Store, but it's based in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Somebody said, what, did somebody make the account while they're on vacation? My guess is somebody isn't working while they're on vacation. Just a hunch. I do some work on vacation. I don't do anything really important on vacation because there's a good chance it'll get missed. You want to start creating accounts for the Washington House Democrats while on vacation? Okay, you do you. Here's another fun one for you. The Palestine Chronicle. Palestine Chronicle, the Washington-based 501c3, whose journalist, and I'm using air quotes on the live stream, was holding Israeli hostages in his family home in Gaza, connected via the web. Basically, it's a VPN. And the account is based in Italy. Why is it based in Italy? Let's do a few more of these, shall we? Samidun, Seattle. Samidun was declared a terrorist organization. They work with Super UW to protest Israel around here all the time. They're the ones who are blocking freeways, blocking highways, shutting down light rail stations. They're the ones who are saying long live October 7th on the UW campus. Funny, they don't even have a location. They're just connected via the web. I also looked at when this account was set up, and here's something fascinating about it. They were set up in April of 2023. Do you remember the stories? What was revealed right after October 7th? Actually, it was about six months to a year after October 7th. That Hamas was actually planning on doing it around Passover time, and it got postponed to the Jewish holiday of Sukkot/Simchas Torah, which is in the fall. That's the hut holiday and the drinking holiday and the dancing holiday. It got postponed from Passover, which is in April around Easter time, to October. And this account was created then. We know that a whole bunch of these accounts went online right before the October 7th attacks. Wonder why they're hiding their location. Can't figure out why. Another good one here. CARE Action. Council for American Islamic Relations has their political branch, a 501c4. It says the account is based in the United States, but it's connected via the Turkey App Store. I don't mean Turkey like cluck, cluck, gobble, gobble like Thanksgiving. I mean Turkey, the country that hates Jews, hates America, and yet somehow is still part of NATO, even though they fund terrorism? Are you kidding me with this? By the way, this account endorsed Katie Wilson. This account endorsed Zoran Mamdani. We're finding out a lot about a lot of people because of these accounts now. Complete nonsense. There are some people that I followed. I didn't use a lot of their content, but I followed them, and I looked at them like, oh, didn't realize you were tweeting from there. Unfollow, 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 unfollow. It's okay to admit that you fell for some of these. But you know what's even more messed up is media outlets following for this. Some of these accounts were being quoted by the BBC, by Newsweek, by the New York Times, by The Guardian, by CNN, by other media outlets when they claimed they were reporters, journalists in Gaza, in Ukraine, in Russia, and none of them actually were. None of them actually were. That's what they were basing their news on. Tell me again about verified sources. Tell me again about that. Mike, if I ran with something like that, I'd be pilloried, absolutely pilloried for that. For claiming, oh, this account on social media, I swear it's legit. I swear it's legit. It is as legit as that girl I was talking to on CompuServe when I was 15 years old who was asking me where I lived and what my gender was and all that. Definitely that legit. Holy cow, we haven't graduated past the 90s. This is like a glorified AOL chat room. And some people were feeding into the bot culture. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. Look, there's a lot more people who hate Jews and hate America out there than actually like Jews and like America. So why not get the clicks off them? This is what I've been saying literally for months. Literally for months we have been talking about this, and this whole facade is coming crashing down right now. Are there still people who are pro-Ukraine or anti-Russia or anti-Israel or pro-American? Absolutely. I'm not saying they're all a bunch of fakers. But some of the most prominent Gaza accounts, turns out they are completely full of it. Completely full of it, claiming they're on the ground. I like the one guy they found who consistently for the last 3 months said, today, my brother and uncle, my son and uncle were killed by Hamas. And I'm like, what, how many times has that happened? That's like me when my parents were getting divorced and going to the school shrink. I can't take my test today. My father moved out. Didn't your father move out last month? Oh, they reconciled. He came back. Come on, guys. Really? Really? How many people were taken in by this insanity? Lots and lots of people. Now, this is going to be this week's feature. And I assume at some point people are just going to switch on more VPNs and block where they actually are. If you check out my account, 100% American, my friends. You can go check it out. You can even see who's paying for my blue check mark. You can see it all right there. It's there for everybody to check out. But how much of this is literally a massive digital psyop? Because when you start interjecting these opinions of people who don't even exist or who are lying about who they are into the conversation, you start skewing the conversation. I joke all the time. Mike and I, we know people are listening to the show. I see my phone lines lighting up right now. We see the text line lighting up right now. People know me when I go out to events. People know Mike when we go out to events. But I'm sitting here in a glass bubble. For all I know, nobody's listening. Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, in theory, could be talking to a whole bunch of bots all day who are just giving them the clicks, the likes, and the shares. We know that's not actually the case, but that's what could be happening. Now, what this has done is given a little bit more transparency to the conversation. I don't care if you don't live in America. You're welcome to have an opinion all you want. But I'm not going to listen to it as much. And the fact that these news outlets were reporting based on information from people who may not even exist, who claim they were on the ground. My favorite was the reporter who claimed he was on the ground in Gaza and was writing from Poland. From Poland. Now, it's okay to say, oh, I'm covering the stuff happening in the Middle East because I have my sources there, my sources there. This guy was literally saying, I'm buried in a building, right? He was in Poland. Give me a break. Give me a break. It's ridiculous. I share videos I see from other parts of the world. I try my very best to verify them beforehand. I expect a little bit more from CNN, MSNBC, The Guardian, BBC, but maybe we really shouldn't. Maybe we really shouldn't. It's insane to me how many people were taken in by this. Now, mind you, today, President Trump designated certain Muslim Brotherhood chapters as foreign terrorist organizations and specifically designated global terrorists. This has been a long time coming. I'm kind of wondering what took so long. According to it, by the authority vested in me as president, by the Constitution, et cetera, it is hereby ordered. This order sets in motion a process by which certain chapters or other subdivisions of the Muslim Brotherhood shall be considered for designation as foreign terrorist organizations, consistent with Section 219 of the INA, and specifically designated global terrorists consistent with the IEEPA. An Executive Order 13224 of September 23rd, 2001, which is blocking property and prohibiting transactions with persons who commit, threaten to commit, and support terrorism as amended. Now, mind you, this is just a game of whack-a-mole. Because let me explain why. You had the Holy Land Foundation. The Holy Land Foundation was the largest Muslim charity organization in the U.S. They were funneling money to Hamas. You have 5 guys, who Zoran Mamdani liked to rap about, who are sitting in federal prison right now for that crime. CARE was listed as an unindicted co-conspirator in that trial. CARE has basically taken on everything the Holy Land Foundation was doing. Well, now CARE's under the microscope. Now the Muslim Brotherhood's under the microscope. What's going to come next to take the place of those organizations? Because the people who want to take down this country, they are playing the long game. They have the 100-year plan. Have you heard about this insanity? Brigitte Gabriel is going to be joining us tomorrow, actually, to discuss this, because she discusses this a lot, the 100-year plan to take down America. What do? We're reactionary. We're reactionary. What fire do we have to put out today? We're not playing the long game. Woo! We got Trump in office one time. Are we looking ahead to 2028? Or are we just hoping it's going to be somebody we like in 2028? Because the Democrats are looking ahead to 2028. People who want to take down America are looking ahead to 2028. We're being reactionary. And how many people fell for this bot insanity? Too many. We have a generation, we have generations at this point of people who don't think critically. They look at the headline, and maybe if you're lucky, they look at the excerpt, or they get their news from TikTok, and they just assume whoever's talking knows what they're talking about. When I was a kid, they literally had classes on don't believe everything you read on the internet. They would scare the hell out of us about neo-Nazis and white supremacists. I just assumed after a while that every chat room I was in, there were neo-Nazis and white supremacists in every single chat room. They're all on the FBI hate list, and I'm going to be there too. Now, all of a sudden, it's believe everything you see on the internet. And what this did was really reveal who's authentic and who's completely full of it. And it revealed this bot insanity that is a new type of warfare. Make no mistake about it, that's what this is. There is an information war going on top of the actual war. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from my friend Danny, who's still in the Navy. Danny, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. So just wanted to, bring up that situation with X and all the, locations being revealed. So I was on the social media pretty late last night and then early this morning after I got to work, and this stuff blowing up about, this account was coming from Israel, and this account was coming from Israel, and there was all these Jew haters who were like looking at, all these federal accounts are coming from Israel. Now, obviously, if you have a thinking brain, obviously the federal government is not based in Israel. They're probably using VPN or some other things going on. Or, as a lot of these cases I saw popping online and getting taken down, was people were using AI or just editing things themselves to show, this is coming from Israel. Just to fuel this this Nick Fuentes style.
Let me stop you right there. So I saw some of those posts, and I immediately went to check the accounts. I saw all this was happening pretty early on, and I saw how many of them were being manipulated. Mind you, people on our side were manipulating these things too and lying about things that weren't there. You can't believe anything you see with this. You have to go verify it all yourself. That's why I started going through these accounts before I would verify or write about or post about any of these other things people were saying.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, ask, do you think this is going to be a new, I guess you could say, vector of kind of the culture war going on right now, about the people who are trying to, take MAGA away from Trump, or who are trying to, infiltrate the rights with these crazy ideas? Do you think this is another vector of this, you could say, inner conservative fighting?
I think it already is. I think we already saw a bunch of these accounts were exposed as such on both sides, by the way. By the way, this is something, thank you for reminding me about this, buddy, is that nobody is free of blame in this. Nobody is. Everybody was doing this because this is the new battlefield. But it's amazing to watch how many were exposed. Daniel, appreciate the call. Thank you for your service. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Got time for one more quick call before we go to break. Go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from our frenemy, Bennett the protester. Bennett, what's up?
Oh, he's right up against the break. All right, get right to it. So you talk about bots a lot. So I want to say what I think would be my solution to all of the bot manipulation problems on social media. And it's similar to what I've talked about before for abuse reports, but give this a listen. I want to take something non-controversial because I want to take all the politics out of it. Let's suppose that you're like a singer-songwriter making guitar songs in your bedroom. Here's how I say it should work. The system randomly releases your content to a small random sample of the entire target audience, 20, 50 people, whatever. You look at how many of them like it or how many of them watch the whole thing or how many of them rate it highly out of 10. And that initial response determines how widely that content is pushed to everybody else. And it sounds very simple, but all of the things that we think are problems plaguing, like how bots manipulate outcomes, none of that would work anymore because you can't go and get your friends to vote up your content because the site randomly picks some people from the target audience. So as long as most of the users are still legitimate, that the average of their votes is going to be legitimate.
That's not a bad idea. It's really not a bad idea, but one little problem with it. If you go back and you watch the early reviews of Die Hard, all the critics hated it. All the critics absolutely hated Die Hard, and now it's a classic. The only debate is whether or not it's a Christmas movie, which in my mind, there's no debate. So that's the problem with that. Why don't we just say, if you want to sign up for any of these accounts, you have to produce ID. Wouldn't that just be the easiest way to do it? That's how you have to get a verified check. Even if you pay for a verified check, you don't get it unless you actually provide some form of ID. Don't you think that's a smarter way, and that'll get rid of a lot of bots until they figure out how to beat that system?
Maybe. I think what you could do is you could still allow people, if they're without verifying, if they want to publish content, but you could still, if you release your new content to a random subset of the entire user base, as long as most of the base is not bots, that should still be good. See, the problem is that, like, even if you only control 1,000 bots, you publish a post, you get all of your bots to go and vote up your post. Now it has 1,000 likes on it. That tricks the system into think it's legit. But if there are 1 million users on the site, you release a post and the site randomly picks 100 people to vote on it. Unless you control like a majority of all of the users on the site, now you've significantly made it a lot harder for your bot army to make any difference.
It's not a bad point. I just think that the ID solution might work a little bit better. It might, because what happens if somebody sends me, hey, review this horror movie, and I don't like horror movies? So, Bennett, I say your idea has merit. You may just need to flesh it out a little bit more. Thank you for the call. Thank you for the suggestions. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, are the homeless already moving back into Seattle parks? Did they ever really leave in the first place? We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Oh, there were people unhappy with me this weekend. There were a lot of people unhappy with me. Ari, Bruce Harrell lost, and it's your fault because you wouldn't endorse him. All right, guys, Bruce Harrell lost because Bruce Harrell sucks. Not because of anything I did. I like to think everybody in Seattle listens to the Ari Hoffman show. That would be wonderful. That would be great. It just ain't the case. Bruce Harrell lost because he didn't actually do any of the things he said he was going to do. He didn't make a distinction between himself and Katie Wilson. And at some point, he tried to be Katie Wilson. You don't beat your opponent trying to be your opponent. It's as dumb as Gavin Newsom trying to be Donald Trump on social media. It just ain't gonna work. And people are saying, oh my God, have you seen how bad it is? The homeless are already moving back into the parks. Time out a second. Did the homeless ever leave the parks? We literally have 3 parks closed right now. 3 parks closed because of homeless-related issues, because of taxpayer-funded drug encampment issues. This is nothing new. Are they coming back to certain parks? Sure, but that's what always happens in the winter. That's what always happens. Shall we go through the cycle? Shall we? Here's what normally happens. For the spring/summertime, they start clearing the homeless out of the major tourist areas. They try to keep them clear for cruise season. Then what happens is in the fall, if there's an election, they try to clear them out again because they want to get reelected. That didn't happen this time. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. Then what happens is they come back in the late fall after the election. They come back and then they get shoved out of places where you're going to have Christmas events. And then they are there from January 1 till the spring again. Now this year, Bruce Harrell didn't clear the homeless encampments before the election because he was too busy trying to be Katie Wilson. And I know a lot of people say, oh, the homeless are back, the homeless are back. This is the time of year they always come back. At some point in the next few weeks, I will predict, at some point, Mike and I just need to go for a walk. It happens occasionally. Mike and I just need to go for a walk. And where do we normally end up going? Seattle Center, so I can get myself a girly coffee. This is what always happens, now that Mike knows what I'm actually ordering at this thing. And what inevitably happens, I see a whole bunch of people hanging out during the daytime in the Armory at Seattle Center because it's warm and they have electrical outlets and they can charge their cell phones and they bring all their bags of crap into the Armory. You don't see that during the summer. You just see that during the winter. Everybody's saying, oh, the homeless are back. The homeless are back. They never left. When did they actually leave? If they were gone, maybe I would have rethunk my position on Bruce Harrell. But unfortunately, he never did it. He just bumped them from place to place to place. But without fail, they always came back. Yesterday, I was up at the Jewish cemeteries for an unveiling. An unveiling is about a year after somebody dies. That's when you reveal the headstone. That's our tradition. That's what you do. So you go out there, you say a few prayers, you're done. Those of you who know the Ari Hoffman origin story know I got into this because the homeless were vandalizing the cemeteries. And who did I have to deal with at the city during that time? Bruce Harrell. And that was back in 2016, 2017. That was when he was on the Seattle City Council. Nothing's gotten better since then. But we upgraded our security. We put in better fences, put in better gates. Yesterday, because there were 2 funerals and this unveiling, the cemetery gates were wide open because people were coming and going. Wouldn't you know? At the end of the services when I was leaving, some methed out woman comes in looking for a place where she can inject, muttering to herself. And we just had to watch while we saw where she went, and then eventually she left because she saw there were crowds everywhere and couldn't do her thing. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. If anything, it's only gotten worse under Bruce Harrell. So anybody who says, oh, Ari, this is just content for you, I didn't want Bruce Harrell to win. I didn't want Katie Wilson to win. I wanted the ground to open up, like with Korach in the Bible, and just swallow everybody, and then maybe Seattle might be saved. Wasn't there some town that elected like a cat or a donkey as its mayor? We might be better off. We might be better off. The lesson here is, can we get some good candidates? Can we get some good people running for office? Please God in heaven. Otherwise, this is only perpetually going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. When we come back, my friends, things may be getting worse here, but they're getting better in D.C. An unexpected resignation has me all a Twitter. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. For the past 2 years, anytime I come back online for being offline for the Jewish Sabbath for 25 hours over the weekend on Saturdays, usually it's not great news. Hasn't been the best news the past 2 years. It's been getting better, don't get me wrong, but hasn't been great since the whole October 7th thing. But I came back online Saturday night to the most wonderful news ever, that Marjorie Taylor Greene, the space laser lady herself, is resigning from Congress. Now, as soon as I posted how excited I was about this, immediately all these people come out and go, she's America first. She's the only one who stood up for any of us, blah, 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 blah. Where? Give me one piece of legislation that she sponsored that got passed. She's been in Congress for 5 years, almost 6. Give me one. What has she done for you, aside from making a spectacle of herself? What has she done for you, aside from her wealth somehow growing from $700 $100,000 to $30 million. And all of you who tell me, oh, Ari, she got a construction company. Okay, that's not how this works. Give me a break. I think she saw something else. I was kind of wondering why she decided now. Well, number one is, once she waits till past January 2nd, she can get that congressional pension. Not everybody gets it. You have to serve a certain number of years in Congress, and then it kicks in at 60, 65, something like that. That's number one. So let's just take, if she was serious about saving America money, she wouldn't have taken the pension. It's not big enough to even be worth taking, but she's taking the pension. Here's why I think MTG is actually resigning, as opposed to all the reasons she gave in her BS speech. Polling found her with a 20.7 favorable rating and an unfavorable rating of 52.5%. That means her congressional seat is poachable by Democrats. This is after a statewide poll for a matchup of her versus John Ossoff showed Ossoff leading 48% to 37%. Some of the polling had him up by even more than that, which is why President Trump said he would not back her for Senate and would not back her for governor because she's so unpopular she's going to lose, and Donald Trump likes winning. He feels bad about it, I'm sure. But at the same time, he's not going to just slap his name on it because they're friends. And then she went on this whole tear. Maybe I can get the Democrats to like me. By bashing Republicans, by bashing Donald Trump, by bashing everything Donald Trump did. Look, I got legit complaints with the Trump administration from time to time. But I'm very clear, open, and I always reach out to the Trump administration for comments, and they send me back emails. We have a wonderful relationship, even when I disagree with them. She just went on the warpath. She went to full-on crazy town. What has she done to benefit you, all the people on social media, assuming you're not bots from other places? What has she done to benefit you? She has enriched herself. Now, give full kudos to her. If her whole goal was just to build up her social media following and then go be a commentator or whatever it is, you did it. You did it. Good on you for quitting now. Maybe some network will offer you a gig like what's his face? Matt Gaetz.
You beat me to it. That was the exact example I was going to point out, Ari. And you know what we call folks like that? Grifters.
And you know what's funny? For you and me to call somebody grifters, because we get called grifters, we don't like doing that. We really don't. We only do it when somebody legit deserves it. You went to Congress, and rather than make people's lives better, you upped your Twitter following. Wow. Bravo. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for your hard work. I'm sure that's what John Adams and James Madison and George Washington had in mind, was your Twitter base. Come on.
It's all content, bro. It's all about your followers on the gram, man. You got to get those numbers up.
Exactly.
Let me throw this at you, Ari, because like this announcement came deep Friday. Yeah. My dude is Ari Hoffman is already offline. Lars is being unleashed, and I'm watching the TV, and then I see this news break. Now, that's 5:30 Pacific time. It's almost bedtime on the East Coast.
Yes.
And I thought at that point, what is the deal with that timing? That feels incredibly suspect. If somebody is trying to parlay their social capital, why not do it midday? Why not do it at a time where we have the opportunity to talk about it instead of Mamdani's visit to the White House meeting with Trump or whatever? It almost feels like you're trying to hide bad news on a Friday afternoon going into the weekend. I did find myself a little confused by the timing.
That's what I thought originally. I thought the exact same thing, and we talk about it all the time. Fridays take out the trash day where they bury all the headlines. Why would you do it on a Friday night? But then I realized something else, Mike. You have the news cycle to yourself for the weekend because they're not covering anything else. And a lot of the people like me who are going to be criticizing you, Mike, why do you think she would put that announcement on a Friday evening? Who are her biggest critics? Who are the people who are going to look up the polling numbers and say, this is BS, it's not America first? Oh, the people with the funny little hats who are good at math. Maybe they'll be the ones to check it out. And Mike, I got to tell you something. Until I came back online, that's when I saw the East Coast come back online and go, guys, here's her polling numbers. One Google search. That is all it took. One Google search. So normally you wouldn't do this on a Friday. But if you don't want the Ari Hoffmans and Ben Shapiro's of the world calling you out for why you're retiring early, why you're resigning early, quitter, why you're doing that, maybe it's because it is the polling numbers. And here's something else. She announced today she's not running for president. Some people are trying to make her running for president a thing, which I find laughable. The poll which they're using to say, don't discount Marjorie Taylor Greene, was taken like right after she resigned. So, of course, you're going to get a bump in that. And it showed J.D. Vance with close to 60% of people voting for him. And then who was after him? Marco Rubio with like 8% and her with 6%. That doesn't mean anybody's thinking she should be president, you lunatics. I'm not great at the math, but I know that 60 is bigger than 6. I did learn that in school at some point.
Well, and not for nothing. I don't know about anybody else listening, but I don't pick my political candidates based on betting odds and gambling websites. Because I saw that same article earlier.
Yeah.
It's like some kind of like betting pool thing or some such like that. Nonsense. But I did feel like Michael Jordan in that documentary, it's like, and I took that personally. Because like it's literally what you said earlier about Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I'm just like, I'm watching on TV and I'm like, we can't cover this. Mm-hmm. She did this so that I can't cover it on my show.
Yes,
great.
That is exactly what she did. And she would have she would have Friday night and Saturday to herself without the people in little funny hats that don't like her very much talking about it. That's why she did it then. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Ron in Tacoma. Ron, what's up?
Well, some of that might be misdirection because I just saw some postings within the hour that she's shooing for The View. You may want to check that out.
Again? Didn't she do that last week or she went on again?
Yeah, it sounds to me like she's coming in permanently maybe, but just heads up.
Oh, dear God in heaven. Why? Okay. What else you got, Ron?
So anyways, I'm calling because, it's really simple. I'm calling because of Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the U.S. Constitution, which says that the president is the commander-in-chief and that he's the one that has the power to grant reprieves and pardons. I don't know why this is open for any debate, but for some reason, Kelly, our little astronaut friend that started this little seditious conspiracy that he has the right to come in and question our president. Apparently, I just saw a posting where he's in uniform discussing this issue. He brought the Navy in full uniform on a posting that just came out like within the last
Wait, he
couple hours.
put on the uniform to go talk about this? That's a big no-no.
Well,
That's
he
a
didn't put it on,
big
but
no-no. You don't get to do that.
Yeah, but you see the Navy uniform there over this discussion. Since when? I didn't know the Navy was part of this.
Well, hang on. I got to give him kudos. At least he still fits into it. Yeah, I'll say is that's a Ron. Ron, let me go check that out. I haven't seen it yet. If you've seen it, do me a favor, email it over to me, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. Appreciate it, buddy. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including Let's Go Washington event this weekend. Had a few dozen protesters show up. What were they so mad about? Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. 2 weeks ago when I spoke in Gig Harbor for Let's Go Washington signature gathering events, some protesters had showed up beforehand and lined the driveway of the school with little mini pride flags. Okay, what? You guys couldn't be there in person, so you guys decide to line it with pride flags? Yeah, somebody took them out of the ground and took them. Go give them out on Capitol Hill. That's where they'll enjoy them. All right, fine. There was also Bennett, the protester, was there. And another guy named Zach the Tracker, who we call Zach the Tracker, who there's been articles written about this guy. In fact, Brian Haywood from Let's Go Washington recently did a whole write-up on this guy about how he basically takes the information off license plates and pictures of anybody who goes to these events to reveal who they are. And he's literally paid by Democrat-affiliated organizations. I fact-checked all this. Yeah, it's all legit. Well, this weekend, out in Issaquah, we had another one of these events for Let's Go Washington. It was headlined by our friend Brandy Cruz and Brian Haywood from Let's Go Washington, and they were collecting signatures for the two initiatives, the one to keep boys out of girls' sports, and the other one to make sure there's rights for parents. Parents know what's going on with their kids in the schools. I pull up in my truck. I should have brought the Batmobile just because it's so much louder, and I could have made them all have to cover their ears, but then again, they're old and might be hard of hearing already. But I pull up in my truck, and I see there's about 2-3 dozen of these old biddies out there. What a diverse group of elderly white people that were out there, protesting and waving their little flags, all mad because they want to keep boys in girls' sports, and they want to make sure parents don't have the right to know what's going on with their kids in education. I wish they had come inside. And I'll tell you why. Best speeches of the day was not Brandy, was not Brian Haywood, was not me, was not Jim Walsh. The best speeches of the day were two teenage girls who pushed back against this insanity and said, no, I'm not going to share a locker room with a boy. No, I'm not going to compete against a boy. No, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm just not. And I'll tell you something. And I said this at the event itself. It's funny. Usually I'm the hype guy, right? I get loud. I get people excited. They had me speak after these two girls, and I literally said during my remarks, how do I follow that? These girls gave such powerful speeches. These girls aren't just fighting for the girls who are trying to get scholarships and the girls who are trying to earn medals. They're fighting for people like my daughter. My daughter, who isn't very athletic, who plays sports for credit. The majority of girls in the state are doing the sports for the credit. Should they have to get injured because for the credit they were forced to play against some boy or share a locker room with some boy? Should they have to do that for the credit? Of course not. Now, I found something out afterwards about the old biddies who were outside, who look like they took too much LSD in the 1960s. This was an aging group, shall we say. Somebody informed me that a lot of them were teachers at the school the event was at. So why would the teachers not want the parents to know what's being taught in the school? Why do you think that is? Because they're pushing the radical agenda. Now, coming up in the show today at 4:30 and 5:30, I've got the two speeches from these two girls. They did such a great job. I want you to hear it because so many of you, when I posted these videos up on social media, said, I wish I could have been there. I wish I could have seen it. Luckily for us, our friend Jonathan Cho got some video of these girls' speeches, and they were so powerful, we're going to play them later in the show. Because I want you to see how great they were. Because they were really that phenomenal. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Armin in Seattle. Armin, what's going on, man?
Hey, I wanted to remind you guys about something that politicians get away with a lot, and it's something that we recently witnessed with the 6 people on the sedition argument that's going on and getting hot right now, even has Trump upset, is they will choose their words carefully so that they don't cross that line of sedition. And if you listen to them, they did that. And so we're going to have all this huffing and puffing and maybe legal stuff that's all going to be an enormous drain on our resources and a distraction that'll eventually not get anywhere. And it's that they didn't say disobey Trump specifically the same way that Trump, when he said we have to go fight for our country, it didn't mean that he meant literally, and that's what saved his bacon, that he didn't mean it specifically violently. It's subjective interpretation of the words. And where I would hammer those 6 is that they knew they were doing that and they did it on purpose.
Oh, I would
in order
agree.
to
Armin, I
cause
would
the tragedy
completely
on the
agree.
uproar.
They did this on purpose, and what's funny was right afterwards, Slotkin went on TMZ. Not really known for its political commentary. She went on TMZ, and the guys from TMZ even said, "So what are the illegal orders Trump's given?" And she couldn't answer it. She couldn't answer it at all. This was all stunt. It was all bait. And unfortunately, the president took the bait because this is all we're going to be talking about in the news the next few days. Armin, great conversation, great comment. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? You give us a call at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, more layoffs here in Washington of high earners. Why do you think that is in the tech sector? We'll tell you why when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, it turns out this climate insanity is worse for the environment. Tell you all about it when we come back, but first we might need to correct the record on something. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Susan in Kirkland. Susan, what's going on?
Hi, I was very curious. You said this person called the Tracker has a pattern of taking license plate numbers and then filing for identification of those?
Not necessarily. Hang on. Before anybody freaks out that everybody's license plates numbers from these events are being taken. This guy usually is looking for high-profile people like me, like Brian Haywood, like people like that. The usual other people, who knows what he does with that information, but this guy is a bit of a scumbag, and I wouldn't take it so seriously because he's been doing this for years now, and I don't know about anybody he's actually harassed other than people like Brian Haywood and the people from Let's Go Washington.
I'm not worried about harassment. It is so impossible right now to get the license plate identification stuff. It's blocked everywhere, and now it's even more illegal than it was.
Yes,
so
that is true.
your attorney can't even get it now. So there is no way that he's doing that. And if he is, that should be investigated like right now.
Right. The question is how he's getting his. See, that's a great point, Susan. I didn't even think of that. It is a lot harder to get that information. The hoops I have to jump through to get through that information is very, very tough.
You can't legally get it, Ari. You cannot legally get it.
Well, I do it legally, Susan. I know how I do it. Okay, I'm not saying I do it illegally, but I'm saying is that with regard to that, Susan, there are ways you can do it. It just takes a really long time. If he's getting it quicker, the question is, how is he getting it? And that may be something that needs to be investigated. Susan, I'm writing this down right now because I'm going to do some investigating of my own on this, okay?
Okay, there is only one way he can get that, and if that is somebody inside of that office is divulging it, and that person needs to be locked up.
Let's find out who that person is.
My attorneys can't even get that.
Let's do a little research and find out. Susan, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Switching gears to this Olympic pipeline leak that is still going on that brings the fuel over to SeaTac Airport. We're in day number 6 of this right now, and they are concerned that this may lead to travel delays with regard to the carriers heading into Thanksgiving. Now, as we discussed last week, Bob Ferguson signs this executive order to waive the requirements of how many hours truckers can drive. It seems like this was all performative because those are federal regulations and he doesn't get to change them. On top of that, the National Guard, I suggested bring in the National Guard. Why don't you bring in the National Guard guys? They know how to transport fuel. Bring them in. Maybe hire some other companies to help you out bringing in fuel. This shouldn't be so bad. Let's help out some local truckers. Let's help the economy. But, Mike, you know what we realized? We have a budget crisis here. Fergie probably doesn't have the money to spend on something like this because Washington's rainy day fund is gone, eaten up by people like the Democrats in his party and Jay Inslee. So he wants to make it look like he's doing something, so he issues an executive order where he can't actually affect anything and makes it look like he's doing something. I wonder if this is all a cost thing. I really, really do at this point. I'm so curious. Now, mind you, switching gears over to the Attorney General's office to Nick Brown, the United States District Court for the District of Rhode Island granted a motion for summary judgment brought by Attorney General Nick Brown and a coalition of 20 others Attorney General, permanently blocking the Trump administration's attempt to dismantle certain agencies, including the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which provides grant and policy support to museums and libraries, the Minority Business Development Agency, which aids minority-owned businesses through federal financial assistance, the Federal Mediation and Conciliation Services, which facilitates peaceful labor dispute resolutions, and the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, which coordinates federal efforts to combat homelessness. I ask you, in our wonderful audience, which of these are essential? Really, which of these are essential. Let's start with the museum and library services. Now, a lot of you may not know this, but our friends in the Navy do. Anytime they retire a ship from service, usually the people who served on the ship want to make it into a museum unless they absolutely disdained the rust bucket and want to see it sunk and turned into a reef. But people always try and save these things. If there's not enough money, it doesn't get turned into a museum. Why does the federal government have to be involved in propping up museums? The Klondike Gold Rush Museum here in Seattle is a perfect example of this. It is not a great museum. In fact, it is a terrible museum. And as I rag on them all the time, the kids in the summer camp, when I sent them there one time from the synagogue, they came back and they said, Ari, how much did you pay for us to go to that place? And I said, it was free, guys. And they go, you overpaid. Do we need to fund bad museums? Don't get me wrong, there are some great museums. But great museums, people want to support. Bad museums, people don't want to support. Why does the federal government need to support museums? Or, for that matter, libraries? I went and looked at the Seattle Charter, by the way. In Seattle's charter, it says we have to fund the libraries. Well, that's Denny or whoever else's fault wrote the city charter. Mercer, whoever, whether they explored or wrote the charter, whoever did that, that's their fault. So because Seattle has a stupid thing in here that says you have to pay for libraries, even if they have become so irrelevant in this day and age that we really need to rethink the whole library system, because right now they're just internet cafes for the homeless, that maybe it's not the federal government's job to pay for the libraries. Maybe. Just call me crazy. I don't think that's a great idea. Okay. They want to pay for the Library of Congress? Fine. That's their business. In fact, there's even an own nonprofit which pays for the presidential libraries. I don't even think necessarily the federal government should pay for anything than those, rather than making sure the documents are maintained. And nowadays, it's a lot easier with the storage. But I don't think we should be paying for any of this. Minority Business Development Agency. Shouldn't there just be a business development agency? Why does it have to specifically say minorities? Also, here's something else. Jews are 0.1% of the world's population. How come my business isn't eligible for this? Oh, right, because it's discriminatory. Why are we paying for this? Federal mediation and conciliation services, which facilitates peaceful labor disputes. Oh, you want to help out your labor buddies. And then the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness. How have they done so far? Because as I look around, it's only gotten worse. So you want to continue funding Homeless Inc., and you want to continue funding a failed body that has not done anything to solve the homeless crisis? Maybe what they're upset about is that the feds might stop funding these things. And as we know from here in Seattle, over 70% of the people who are here, who are allegedly homeless, are not from here originally, which means they came here for the services. They came here for the free stuff. They came here for the crack pipes. They came here for everything else. We are incentivizing homelessness by paying for all this insanity. And has it actually gotten better? Our friends over at Change Washington have a great article, which is basically a monologue I did on the show last week, calling out the Seattle Times Project Homeless for not actually doing anything to hold the homeless industrial complex accountable. Not at all. November 2nd, 2025 was the 10-year anniversary of Seattle-King County declaring a homelessness emergency. A decade later, government actions have caused homelessness to increase 68%, and thousands have died, mostly from drug overdoses. The Seattle Times, despite having an editor, Molly MJ Harbinger, and two reporters, Greg Kim and Anna Patrick, to cover the issue, failed to mention this milestone or the worsening homelessness population. So they cover this stuff and talk about specifically Homeless Lab, which is basically funded by, shall we get into this? The Project Homeless. Right, it's the Education Lab and Project Homeless. So, who's funding this stupidity? The Campion Foundation's website proclaims the progressives' mantra that we must increase leverage in the government's role, i.e., expand the size, cost, and power of government. The president of the Rakes Foundation Housing and Homelessness Efforts is a former senior staff member for Democrat U.S. Senator Patty Murray. The foundation's website makes the false claim that we are doing for the homeless is working. We just need to increase the amount of money. The Seattle Foundation, typical progressive organization filled with liberal activists promoting left-wing solutions. And this is who is funding Project Homeless. Gee, why aren't they covering it well? And then when you talk about state-funded media, why would they ever be honest about what's causing the homeless crisis if their sugar daddies are the ones benefiting and the ones making it worse? You don't get honest journalism that way. So when you have people like socialist Katie Wilson, who's now the mayor of Seattle, who wants to have democracy vouchers for the media, why would the media ever be honest in their coverage? You had all those reporters who were given the Murrow grants here in Washington to go cover the legislature by, wait for it, the legislature. Why would they ever cover anything honestly when their sugar daddies are the ones doing everything wrong? Media, absolutely dead here in Seattle. But don't worry, here comes Seattle to the rescue. Seattle knows what to do. They know how to get more construction for the homeless, and I'm using the air quotes for those of you watching on Facebook, Rumble, over on Twitter, X and Facebook. Yeah, they're going to hike the prices on construction permits. Oh, that's how we're going to incentivize more people building around here. Do you see any construction going on around here? I've never seen so little construction in all the years I lived here. They are disincentivizing construction. You have a 30% office vacancy rate downtown. You guys, because of your rent control insanity, nobody wants to build here because there's no profit in it anymore. That, coupled with all the insane regulations, especially the green regulations you guys have on building anything, you have disincentivized homelessness. Or rather, building to solve the homeless crisis, if that's what you actually say it is. You have disincentivized construction around here. Bravo. Well done. Do you know why they're hitting us with so many more taxes? They have a drop-off in the construction sector. Gee, why do we have a drop-off in the construction sector? And then you have another problem. They have a drop-off in the B&O tax, the business and occupation tax. You mean businesses are leaving Washington State? Oh, no! Verizon today announced another round of layoffs. You have all the major tech companies around here laying off their high earners. They're hiring in other places, but not here. Why is that? Because of the employee head tax, because of the jumpstart tax, because of those taxes that specifically target the high earners. The companies go, blank you, we are out of here. We're not putting up with this anymore. And then they move. This is what the Democrats have done to Washington State. This is what they've done to King County. This is what they've done to Seattle. Well, today, one of the King County Council members announced she's running for re-election. And that's the woman who put her baby in an Antifa onesie, who marched with Antifa against her own police officers, who said, when one of them said to the police to KK kill themselves, she said the anger you hear is justified. Teresa Mosqueda is running for re-election for the King County Council. What's she running for? Normally for me, when somebody's running for re-election, I want to know what they accomplished the first term. So can we look at her website for a second here? Let's pull this up. What are her accomplishments? Housing and anti-displacement. Well, the homelessness problem has only gotten worse and housing's gotten less affordable. So screwed that one up. Health and behavioral health. What are we talking about here? We talking about drug addicts? No, gun violence prevention. What is that? What does that have to do with any of this? Climate, environment, and infrastructure equity. Okay, just forget it. Just forget it. Transit, transportation, and connectivity. Well, you did a bang-up job the first time around. Great. This is just fantastic. You've got the socialist, another socialist running for re-election again. Is there a single moderate, a single conservative who's going to go up against this woman? Somebody, please. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Richard and Lacey. Richard, what's going on?
Hey, Ari. Just a thought about Marjorie Trader Green, and I just wanted your opinion.
Yeah.
So her performance on The View a couple of weeks ago, I think that was her audition for the show.
Oh.
And it wouldn't surprise me if after she resigns, you're going to see a big headline. Marjorie Trader Green is on The View for $1 million.
You know, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. And then they're going to call her a token conservative. And then what's going to happen is she's going to repeat the Democrat talking points. And every paragraph is going to start with this. You know how a lot of people say, I identify as? She's going to say something like, when Donald Trump called me a traitor, when Donald Trump betrayed me. Every sentence will start with that, don't you think?
I think so. And I think they need a heel, like a heel in wrestling. They need somebody to beat up on. And I think she is the perfect heel for them.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. In fact, there's a lot of people on the text line who agree with you, who think that The View would be her likely next stop. Yeah, Richard, that's a great point. So you think The View, not MSDNC or any of these other groups? Maybe I don't know, who knows, wherever Matt Gaetz went. Any of these places?
Well, I don't know. Maybe so. But I think that was her audition. I think she was approved, and I think that's why she's resigning.
Ah, very good. Very, very good. I'll tell you what, Richard, I know you listen to the show all the time. If you're proven right, I want you to call the show, and we'll give you some gloating time, okay? All right. You take care, man. Have a good day. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Got some good texts over on our topic earlier about the people now being exposed on Twitter as being bots. This one's a good one from Rob in Lakewood. He says 10% of X posters post 90% of X posts. They sound like prolific offenders to me. You mean like how the majority of crimes are being committed by what, like 120 criminals right here in Seattle? This one from Dave. If you need ID for an X account, it'd be yet another thing that is more secure and verified than our voter database. So true. So true. I think that's actually the way to go. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including, turns out all this climate insanity is infinitely worse for the environment. Not just here in Washington, but also in California. We'll tell you what stupidity they did this time when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Washington instituted the same stupid plastic bag bans that they did in California and elsewhere. If your city, state, county is banning plastic bags and plastic straws, but giving out plastic needles with metal in them, you are governed by morons. Turns out, this ain't so good for the environment either. KREM has a story for us.
Get ready to pay a little more for reusable plastic bags in Washington. Starting January 1st, the price at stores and restaurants jumps to 12 cents per bag, up from the original 8-cent fee set back in 2020. Now, some stores are already charging more, but the state says the goal is still the same, to cut down on plastic waste and push shoppers to bring their own bags.
Yeah, one little teensy tiny problem. Washington State University did a study, and it showed that this creates an increase in plastic waste. Increase. And here's something else. I love how they charge you for the paper bags. Should it be paper or plastic, and papers are renewables? Oh, wait, we stopped all the logging around here because loggers are bad. It's a renewable. Why do we bother recycling paper? Why do we bother doing that if we have to pay for the paper bags? They're making you pay for it because they're getting charged by the state for it. Thanks so much, guys. Talk about affordability. How about you stop nickel and diming us, literally nickel and diming us for the bags?
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Exactly.
Let me throw one out here, Ari. I've complained about the plastic bag charge for quite some time, but there was this time where they've changed the plastic bags. Like, so we'll charge you the 8 to 10 cents, but we'll give you a nicer, thicker plastic bag. And I got 2 cats at home. That bag does me no good. I like having my cheap, thin, single-use shopping bags so that I could take care of the cat stuff with it. And now I can't go to a store and get those. You know what I did, Ari? You know what I did? I went on Amazon and bought myself a case of cheap plastic bags for like less than $20.
Yes.
It was like 1,000 bags for less than $20. But still, like, I just used to get those from my grocery store. Now I gotta pay Jeff Bezos to give me cat litter bags. Ridiculous.
My wife started doing the same thing. She buys plastic bags for us to use at home. Wait a minute. What you're telling me is you've increased the people who are now buying the bags, which is creating more plastic, which is creating more waste. Brilliantly done.
Because you know what I do with the more expensive bags, Ari? The one I paid 10 cents for because I've got too many sodas in my bag that I don't want to just carry. I don't know, man. You buy like a 6-pack and a bottle of wine or something. I don't want to be carrying that raw to the parking lot. Sorry. I got my own demons to deal with. So I'll spring for the bag. You know what I do as soon as I get home? I throw that bag away. I'm not going to take it back to the store to put more sodas in.
No. And me, out of spite now, I used to hold on to the plastic bags. We had a plastic bag repository in the house. Nope. Now it's screw it. You made me bring this thing home. I'm throwing it away because I can't use it for anything else. Well, it was a fascinating new op-ed from Fox News. Fascinating. Talking about how Newsom's war on energy is crippling California and undermining the military. This is by Vince Fong. As California Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom traveled to Brazil touting his failed energy agenda in mid-November, the reality back home is unavoidable because of his policies. Californians are paying some of the highest gas and electricity prices in the nation. Sound familiar, Washington? We are being crushed by the Newsom energy affordability crisis, and it's crippling our national security. Since 2018, more than 360 energy companies have left California due to the state's debilitating regulations, and new oil drilling permits have fallen by 95% since he assumed office in 2019. As a result, California has produced nearly 128,000 fewer barrels of oil per day over the past 5 years, despite holding the 5th largest petroleum reserves in the country. The undeniable consequence of Newsom's refusal to support domestic production is a greater reliance on foreign oil. By the way, their production ain't as clean as ours. In 1982, less than 6% of California's crude oil came from outside the U.S. Today, according to Newsom's own California Energy Commission, the number has skyrocketed to over 60%. Brazil now accounts for 20% of California's imported energy supply, and 21% comes from Iraq. Tell me again how you guys don't want to be messing around in the Middle East. Meanwhile, California's refining capacity continues to collapse. By early 2026, the state's projected to lose nearly 20% of its remaining refinery capacity, and without urgent action, blackouts, price spikes, and fuel shortages will become the new normal, not only for Californians, but for millions across the West Coast who depend on the energy supply. This drastically impacts the viability of California's pipelines, most of which require 90,000 barrels a day in production to remain financially solvent and operational. However, due to shortages, they are barely operating at 50,000 barrels a day, causing $2 million in losses a month for operators. Let's hear it for Gavin Newsom. Well done all around. Well done, Gavin. Washington, Oregon, on the exact same tracks. Exact same tracks. You want to know why gas is so expensive around here? There's a lot of reasons. We know it's the Climate Commitment Act. We know it's the taxes. But also it's stupidity like this, where when you have to buy something from somebody else, it now becomes more expensive because rather than producing something you have in your own ground, cleaner than Iraq, I would assume. I haven't done a side-by-side comparison of U.S. oil standards versus Iraqi oil standards. I would wager to say ours is better and cleaner for the environment. Just a guess. Just a guess. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's cleaner how we do it here in the U.S. than how they do it in Iraq. Don't you think? That's what I think. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Ted in Gig Harbor. Ted, what's up, man?
Hey, Ari. I told Mike, I like the thick bags because I can use them for poop patrol for the dog, okay?
Well, maybe because my kids are grown up, I don't think the same way anymore. Maybe that's what it is. I don't have pets in my house. When I want a fix of a dog or something, I head up to my in-laws. They got the dogs. I take them for a walk.
Yeah, adding another 4 cents the cost of a bag, 4 or 5 cents, is not going to reduce consumption. We're going to use the same damn number of bags.
Right. Look what happened with the soda. People aren't drinking less soda. They're drinking the same amount of soda, and now you got the soda slush fund in Seattle.
Right. And, this idea, we're cutting down on, plastic in the water. That big island of plastic in the middle of the Pacific Ocean comes from Asia.
Yeah.
Because the currents go from west to east.
Exactly. And they're not cutting down on any of the insanity they're doing anytime soon. I saw those nuclear stacks in the background of the Olympics the last time we did it. Ted, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? You give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from John in Bremerton. John, what's up, man?
Hey, Ari. It's interesting with the changings of sex in athletics. You rarely hear of girls or indeed women wanting to participate as men in sports.
They used to have to do it more often because sometimes they didn't have girls' sports available, and you had to be really, really good to compete at that level. But what I say is, I actually said this yesterday at the Let's Go Washington event. I said, I'm a 5'9", or at least I tell everybody I'm 5'9", Jewish male, right? I am not exactly known for my sports athleticism prowess, okay? That is not something I am known for. I want to hang out with girls in high school. I joined the Drama Society. I joined the choir. That's what I did. It's really crazy to me these days that you have this because they can't compete at that level. There comes a time in every young boy's life when he is told he can't play baseball anymore. Unfortunately for me, that was in 8th grade because everybody else got better than me. John, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, you will hear from one of these amazing teenage athletes who is standing up not just for her rights for women's sports, but against Bob Ferguson, Chris Rakedall, and Nick Brown. We'll have that for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to download the KVI app and subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. That way, you never miss a minute of the show. Also, while you're over there, rate and share, so that way your friends can join in on all the fun as well. Yesterday, I was out in Issaquah at an event for our friends at Let's Go Washington. Let's Go Washington is currently collecting signatures on two initiatives, one to keep boys out of girls' sports, and the other one to make sure we have parental rights so we know what they're doing to our kids in school. We know what they're teaching our kids in school. We know what name they're calling our kids in school. Not so much to ask, and it's crazy we even have to be doing this. But there are two girls who spoke yesterday. One of them was Annalee Wilson. She was a track star. She still is a track star for Eastmont High School. And she had medals stolen from her by boys because they wanted to compete against girls. It's insane. It's also insane that this high schooler, rather than being at practice, rather than being working on her track skills, has to be talking to all of us about the importance of girls' schools because Turd Ferguson and Creepy Chris Rakedahl and others are too cowardly to keep boys out of girls' sports and are obsessed with keeping boys in girls' sports. Annalee's speech, she's a teenager. She didn't sign up for this. She signed up to run in track, and she got thrown into this political mess. She spoke so eloquently yesterday. I want you to hear her speech. Here's what she said.
Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Public speaking is not my thing, but I'm going to do my best. My name is Annalee Wilson. I am a sophomore at Eastmont High School, and I do cross country and track and field for Eastmont. I also played basketball last year, but I'm not anymore because I'm focusing on track because I love it. I'm here today because protecting fairness in girls' sports is important to me, and it's something I personally experienced. I know what it feels like to compete against a biological boy. In 8th grade, I qualified for the Kashmir Junior Olympics in track and field. Only the top two athletes from each event from each school advanced. That year meant even more to me because I had dislocated my kneecap playing basketball and spent months going through painful recovery just to earn that spot. When I arrived at the Junior Olympics, I had no idea I'd be racing against a boy. I didn't realize it until after the race, when he stood on the podium in first place. And every girl, including me, was pushed down one spot. When my friends voiced their frustrations, an adult on the boys' team said that if they were going to complain, they should go somewhere else and complain. Everything I had worked for and everything those other girls had worked for, all the training, the injuries, the sacrifices, suddenly felt like it didn't matter. When my family and I respectfully spoke up about fairness and safety for biological girls, we never expected the backlash that would follow. We have been called hateful, transphobic, and bigots. Adults have called me stupid, and adults have told my parents that they should be ashamed of me for being so hateful. And I'm often told that I'm just a sore loser, and that if I wanted to win, I should train harder and just not suck. Okay. My family had been threatened with lawsuits. We've lost friendships, and someone even said that we better hope that I have a bodyguard because I'm so hateful. I have also been told that by speaking up, I would be responsible if that transgender athlete decided to take their life. Do you know what it's like to carry that weight at 16 years old? I can't believe the awful things that have been said about me and my family, all because I'm asking for fairness, for safety, and for fairness and safety in girls' sports. Sorry, hold on. I lost my spot.
You got it, girl.
People tell me this isn't a big deal, or that there aren't many transgender athletes, or that it's just dumb high school sports. But since 8th grade, I have competed against 4 biological boys that I know of. 4 times I've watched girls lose their rightful spots on the podium and rankings and in their confidence. And it's not just about high school sports. For me, for my friends, and for so many other female athletes, this is about our dreams. We train for hours, we push through pain, sweat, and tears. We sacrifice because our parents and coaches have taught us that hard work and discipline matter. That if we give our all, we can achieve our goals. The belief is what we are fighting to protect. I've continued to speak out because I know how it feels to have something you earned taken away. I am not alone. Girls across Washington have messaged me. Girls who are discouraged, hurt, and scared to speak up publicly. They've told me they've lost podium spots, awards, rankings, and they've told me that if they protest, even by peacefully refusing to compete, they're threatened with suspension by their schools, coaches, or athletic directors. As female athletes, we feel like our hands are tied and our voices are ignored. We feel like we do not matter at all. Our fairness and safety are being dismissed by adults who are supposed to protect us. As female athletes, wrong spot. So today I want to speak directly to Governor Bob Ferguson, Superintendent Chris Reichdahl, and the WIAA. We are asking that you listen to the female athletes in Washington who are being directly affected by your policy allowing biological boys to compete in girls' sports and be in our locker rooms. You have stood up for transgender athletes, but you have not stood up for us. We matter too. We have voices and we have stories, and we deserve protection in our locker rooms, in our sports, and in the opportunities that we have worked so hard for. Governor Ferguson recently said, Washington is the best state for women's sports in the country. Funny. I was shocked that he could say that with a straight face. Has he not read the letters that we've written, the stories we've shared, the pleas from girls who just want a fair chance? Governor Bob Ferguson, Washington is not the best state for women's sports, and it won't be until every girl knows that when she steps on that starting line, that field, or that court, she's competing on a level playing field. That's all we're asking for: fairness, safety, and respect. The very reason women's sports were created. And Superintendent Chris Reichdahl, you have said that Washington public schools must provide a safe and non-discriminatory environment for all students so that all students can thrive. I need you to hear this clearly. We are not thriving with boys in our locker rooms or boys in our sports. You are not upholding what you clearly stated. I'm tired of adults twisting this into something hateful when it isn't. I'm tired of being called awful things for speaking up. This is not about hate. This is not about discriminating against transgender athletes. This is about protecting girls, physically, emotionally, and competitively. I have learned firsthand that doing what is right isn't always easy and it isn't always popular. But if I can stand here at 16 years old and take these hits, the insults, and the threats, then the leaders of the state can also find the courage to do what's right. I again invite Governor Bob Ferguson and Superintendent Chris Reichdahl to sit down with me and hear my story. Hear the stories of girls in Washington. Talk to me face to face about what we're going through and how we feel about it. We deserve to be heard because what you have in place isn't working. In closing, I'm asking every eligible voter, please sign this initiative. It is so important to me and so many other people. I can't sign it because I'm only 16, but you can. You have the power to protect fairness. You have the power to protect girls' safety. You have the power to show us that we matter too. Your signature just isn't ink. It's a message to every female athlete in Washington that we are worth protecting, that our dreams matter, our voices matter, and our opportunities matter. Thank you.
My favorite part of that is where she said, I'm 16 and I can't sign this, but you can. She also said she wanted to talk to Bob Ferguson, Chris Reichdahl, and Nick Brown. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to send out little invites to all of them. I assume they're not going to get back to me because all three of them are cowards, but who knows? and we'll see if they'd be willing to sit down with Annalie. In fact, I'll just provide the space. I won't even say anything. I'll let that girl do the talking, because clearly she has no problem calling them out for destroying women's sports. What happened to believe all women, guys, right? What happened to women's rights? What happened to women's bodies? What happened to any of that? You guys threw it all out the window for dudes who can't compete at a dude level. These initiatives are available through Let's Go Washington. In fact, if you haven't signed one yet, you can go to Let's Go Washington's website, request one, and they will mail it to you, and you can mail it right back. We'll also let you know about more upcoming signing events as soon as they tell us about them. It's really nice to see so many of you yesterday who said you heard about it on the show, who came out specifically because we told you about it. We will tell you when there are more events like this. When we come back, my friends, Eric Swalwell's new plan for elections. Does it involve people named Fang Fang? Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Guess it's time to talk about Eric Swalwell, right? Talk about his new idea for elections. Yeah, he was over on CNN this weekend, and he said the following.
I want us to be able to vote by phone. I think every Californian
Vote by phone.
Vote by phone. Yeah, if we can do our taxes, do our make our healthcare appointments, make essentially do your banking online, you should be able to vote by phone.
Yeah, let's back up a second. Let's back up a second, Mr. Fang Fang. I'm sorry. Allegedly, Mr. Fang Fang. Let's do that for a second here. Okay, sure. So you want our elections to be more compromised. All right. You know what? Let's do it your way. No problem. Mike, when you have to do online banking, I don't know how your bank works. I know how my bank works these days. I usually need 2-factor authentication, have to enter a password, and to set up that account in the first place. How many forms of ID did I need for that?
A lot.
A lot. Exactly right. So
it's harder to bank on your phone than it is to fly.
Yes. Completely true. Completely correct.
Which is great because I like the security.
Yeah, I'm all for it. All for it. One of my kids one time said, "Dad, I'm missing all this money from my account." So, of course, I go, "Fraud! Somebody's stealing from my kid." And then I look at what the charges were, and I'm like, "You like that game Roblox, do you? The Roblox? You've been spending a lot of money on the Roblox? It's not fraud. It's you, dum-dum." Anyway, yeah. The fraud is a little bit harder these days. Speaking of harder, Swalwell, Fang, right? This is the guy who we're going to trust on voter integrity. Yeah, okay, let's go back in time for a little bit. One of my first public appearances as a radio host on Talk Radio 570 KVI, a church invited me out to speak. And I think it was right after the election. Everybody was talking about voter fraud. And I held up my phone, and I said, "You guys realize this is what they're going to start pushing next? Vote by phone?" And remember, some old lady says, "Ari, why can't we just go back to the way things used to be? I don't think it's right that there's ballot harvesting. I don't think it's right that we have same-day voter registration. I don't think it's right that we don't have voter ID." I said, "Ma'am, you're 100% correct. You are 100% right. I completely agree with you. But unfortunately, we have to play that game so we can win, and nobody here in Washington is doing it." Mike, this was like 5 years ago. 5 years ago. And she said, "Well, I don't want to do that. I don't think it's right." And I said, "You may not think it's right, but you know you're allowed to tackle people in football. And if the other team is tackling people on your team, you're allowed to tackle them." And she said, "I don't think it's right." Has there been any meaningful ballot harvesting operation here aside from what they're doing out in Yakima and a few other places?
How about no?
Has there been any meaningful ballot harvesting operation in King County?
2 flashes mean no.
Has there been any meaningful ballot harvesting operation in Seattle?
No.
Okay. So if we don't do that, guess who runs the state? Seattle. And because of that, you keep having problems like the ones we're having. I told you this was coming, where the Democrats were going to start pushing for this. So now Swalwell, Mr. Fang, I'm sorry, allegedly Mr. Fang, wants us to vote by cell phone. It's the only way he thinks he can win. This guy's running for governor now. You know the craziest thing? He might actually win. But he's trying to make it easier for himself. Because who has a lot of free cell phones that were given to them by the government? Oh.
Obama!
No, Obama gave out the phones. Oh, Hank Williams Jr. No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he did. You think it's just going to be the illegals voting? It'll be the homeless. It'll be anybody else that the U.S. government gave a cell phone to. And that's why he wants you voting on the phone. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Final hour free for all your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Patty Murray is freaking out over the Department of Education closing down, and who locally is backing her up. But before we get to any of that, guys, there was this headline last night. How could all of you fall for the fake news media so easily? Reuters ran a headline last night. And what was the headline? Doge is shutting down 8 months early. Now, mind you, I've had my critiques of Doge. I am very upset that Congress hasn't passed more rescissions. Doge has been pretty quiet. And I was relying on them for a lot of our content. We were getting some great stuff out of Doge, but perhaps they figured out the quieter we are, the more we can cut. And maybe at the 250th anniversary, they can announce all these cuts that they've made. Last time we checked in, it was what, $650 billion? And that was a few months ago. Now, the problem was with a lot of these cuts is when Congress votes on something, that means it is now law. That means you now have to spend that money. So how are you making these cuts without doing rescissions? I haven't heard about any rescission votes. I did a search for some rescission votes. Haven't heard about any. What exactly is going on? So Reuters runs this headline that Doge is shutting down. Well, Monday night, the Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, said that the Reuters report was fake news and that more news on waste and fraud cuts were incoming. Quote, as usual, this is fake news from Reuters. President Trump was given a mandate by the American people to modernize the federal government and reduce waste, fraud, and abuse. Just last week, Doge terminated 78 wasteful contracts, saved taxpayers $335 million. We'll be back in a few days with our regularly scheduled Friday update. Mike, this may be my fault. I haven't been seeing these Friday updates. And perhaps they've been making them and we haven't been following them. You know what we need to do, Mike? Maybe every Friday, we need to do a Doge report and see what we've been missing. We used to do Doge for my Dodge, for my friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. We used to do that all the time, but then we stopped getting information from Doge. Maybe now on Fridays, we start doing Doge summaries. Let me just check out of sheer curiosity. Well, I have all of you listening right now. I'm going over to Doge's Twitter account. So let's see what we got here. Okay, here's yesterday. Over the last 9 days, agencies terminated and de-scoped 78 wasteful contracts with a ceiling value of $1.9 billion and savings of $335 million, including a $616,000 HHS IT services contract for social media monitoring platform subscriptions, and $191,000 US AGM broadcasting contract for broadcast operations and maintenance in Ethiopia, Africa, and a $4.3 million IRS IT service contract for the Inflation Reduction Act Transformation Project Management Services. Okay, this is all great. This is all great. But did Congress vote for it? If Congress voted for it, you need to do rescissions. And here's the thing, guys. You may not have a lot longer to do these rescissions. Now, maybe you're saving up. Maybe you're waiting for the 250th anniversary, and President Trump is going to go out there after the fight night or whatever it is and say, look at all the waste, fraud, and abuse. We've got it all out. Elon, where's Elon? Is Elon around? Elon, come on over. Come on up here because we're friends again. Come on up, Elon. And they do a whole thing. Maybe they're going to have drones in the sky spelling out all the waste that Doge has cut. Maybe. And maybe Doge is being more effective because they're not on everybody's radar all the time. But yeah, they do an update every single Friday. And based on the numbers, not as many people are seeing them as used to see their old updates, and perhaps they realized that maybe not being in the spotlight, they'll be able to cut a whole lot more. Now, this is very, very encouraging, and let me tell you why. The less money the federal government is spending, the more your dollar is worth. This brings down inflation. And if you can get rid of a lot of this waste, fraud, and abuse, you're going to save the American taxpayer a lot of money, and their dollar will be worth more, which is a huge, 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 wonderful thing. The problem is the entitlement programs. As soon as you start touching the entitlement programs, that's when the left goes bonkers crazy. Even though what they do here in Washington State, the Democrats here in Washington State cut hundreds of millions of dollars from our own Medicaid programs and jack taxes at the same time. If they had gone with the Republican spending plan, they wouldn't have needed to raise taxes and they wouldn't have needed to cut essential services. The Democrats are doing this specifically because, just like the Democrats in Washington, D.C., the Democrats in Washington State want to use you as leverage. They want to use you as leverage. They want you yelling and screaming so much that, yeah, you'll even vote for an income tax. This is part of the plan. Washington's one of the few states without an income tax. Or, excuse me, I should say one of the few blue states left without an income tax, and they're trying to get one. They are going to shoehorn it in however they can. That's what they're going to do. Now, the Trump administration is bragging about how Thanksgiving is going to cost a lot less this year. And they're right if you live in a red state. If you live in a red state, it's going to cost a lot less. Why? Because gas prices have come down nationally. And gas prices have come down so much that means when your energy prices go down, your grocery costs go down. Because the farmers don't have to pay as much to get your groceries for you. The stores don't have to pay as much to get your groceries to you. That's all great, except in places like Washington, where those costs have not come down. Mike, I used to love going to the grocery store. I actually like going to the grocery store. Now, mind you, the Safeway I go to hasn't been as safe recently. Now, I do know that some of the people there listen to the show, so maybe some feedback will help. Guys, there's vagrants in front of the store, and they always have children with them. Can we not call CPS, or is CPS not responding or something? Can we do something about that? Anyway, aside from the safety concerns, the other day, Mike, you know me on a Friday. On Fridays, I am out of here like with the quickness because I got to get home in time for the Sabbath, right? And I realized we were going to somebody's house for dinner, and I had to go buy some wine, something nice to get them for dinner, but it's in the section where everything is, you have to check out of that specific section, and everything's locked up because it's the most stealable stuff in the store. That automatically ends 20 minutes because you got to wait in line for somebody to get the key to go open up the stuff for you. It's very frustrating. I understand why Safeway's doing it. Not mad at Safeway for it. I understand. That's because of policies around here. I totally get it. It's just very, very frustrating. But regarding what we were originally talking about was the grocery prices and such, I used to love going to the grocery store. I would buy super pretzels for the kids because they like the super pretzels. I'd buy other tasty treats. I'd load up the cart. My wife would always say, "What'd you come home with?" "I sent you for milk." "I sent you for milk, and you came home with half the store." Well, now I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore because things have gotten so expensive. It's not Safeway's fault. It's Bob Ferguson's fault. It's Jay Inslee's fault. It's Joe Wynn's fault. It's the Democrats' fault, who passed things like the Climate Commitment Act. Because when your gas prices go up, everything else goes up in price. Is there a reason that our gas costs so much and Idaho's doesn't? Yeah, taxes. That's why. When I was in New York a few weeks ago for my niece's bat mitzvah, and I'm driving down the street, and I just wanted to bring my cars over to fill them up with gas because gas was $2.89. $2.89 in New York. New York's a blue state, my friends. So, is Thanksgiving going to be cheaper this year? The answer is sort of. It's going to be cheaper in red states, and red states already support President Trump. Is it going to be cheaper in blue states? Not necessarily. Because Democrats have put so many taxes on everything, never mind the free-range chicken insanity around here, that because of all this, you are now paying more for your groceries. So I want you to think about this. Do you remember when we used to have those stickers people were joking about making? I'm not sure if they even actually made them for real. Maybe they did. Where Jay Inslee and Trudy went on TV during COVID and said, we don't want you to have Thanksgiving with your families. You need to stay home. Stay healthy. Me and Trudy aren't going anywhere. And then we got the public disclosure request back that his personal security guards had rented skis for some reason. Yeah, didn't go anywhere. Stay home, stay healthy, right? Remember they had those stickers? I don't know if they were real or if they were fake, but they had those stickers where it made it look like Jay Inslee was looking in on your house to see if you were having people over, which I thought was kind of funny. Maybe now we need stickers to go on your turkey. You want to know how much this turkey cost? I did that, Bob Ferguson. That's why I think we should do that. Instead of the gas tanks, you slap them on a turkey right next to the price. Well, you're not going to have the price on it. Mike, we need to rethink this. I need to workshop this on air, right? When you cook the turkey, you don't have the wrapping on the turkey anymore. And I don't want people vandalizing turkeys in the grocery store with I did that. No, don't do that, people. And don't vandalize. Oh, you know what you should do? Take a picture of your bill. Take a picture of your bill and do a digital Bob Ferguson I did that right there. Or the Washington Democrat symbol with an I did that right there. You know, the Washington Democrats whose Twitter account isn't actually being operated out of the United States of America, those Democrats. Do an I did that right there on your grocery bill. How much is your grocery bill costing you for Thanksgiving this year? You know, I bet you some people aren't having over as many people as they used to. Here's something else about Thanksgiving. Why are people not having political conversations at their Thanksgiving table? That's all we do. That's what we should be doing. I saw another headline that I couldn't believe I was seeing this from so many right-leaning outlets. Baby boomers are the richest generation with $85 trillion in assets. Younger generations have no chance at catching up. Well, that just ain't true. That just ain't true. I know they're doing all these mathematical calculations that go, you're never going to be as rich as them. Well, you do have a problem working against you, and that's the government. The number one problem you have is how much money the government is taking from you. Also, it's harder and harder to get wealth. The Democrats made sure of that because they believe in redistribution of wealth. And guess what? They've actually achieved it. They've achieved it where it's harder and harder to get rich in America. But you know what? People still get rich. Mark Zuckerberg got rich. Okay? There are still people who can do that through the American dream, through innovation, through the American spirit. I don't believe that younger generations have no chance of catching up. I believe that younger generations don't have the drive to catch up. It seems like younger generations today want to get as much money as possible by doing the least amount of work. I cannot believe how few kids have jobs aside from, well, maybe we'll work at our synagogue on the weekends or whatever it is, or maybe we'll work at the church on the weekends or something. How few kids actually want those jobs. The drive just isn't there. I was talking with a friend of mine this weekend about his kids. He's like, oh, my kids will do anything. You need help, you call them, they'll do it. My son was like that before he went off for his gap year. He was one of those kids. But most kids these days, they don't even care. What, they think they're just going to get rich being influencers? Not gonna happen, guys. I hate to burst your little bubble. Just ain't gonna happen, all right? I'm monetized on social media. I ain't getting rich off the social media, and I got a radio show. And I've been doing this quite a while. It's a fluke when you make that kind of money off social media. If you can, more power to you, but that's not normally how the world works. It seems like there's less drive to go after that wealth that our parents and their parents' generation had to go after that wealth. Fresh out of World War II, fresh out of Korea, fresh out of Vietnam, fresh out of any of this. It was a different time. And they said, we want to fight for the American dream. We want to defend the American dream. And we want to go have the American dream. Of course you work hard. They would be shocked by the kids now who just sit there all day on the cell phones. I can't believe how much time I waste on the cell phones, and I'm 44 years old. Mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. But the fact that I saw so many right-leaning outlets saying this, guys, you realize you're bashing Trump by saying that? You realize you're saying you're never going to get this? What you should be saying is the drive is gone. How do we get back to a place where we can go get this? Switching gears for a minute, we know that the 6 Democrats are in some pretty serious hot water for asking soldiers, U.S. service members, to disobey orders. They were very, very careful about how they phrased it. Legally, I think you're going to have a hard time making a case that they did anything wrong. I really, truly believe that. But looking at it, the optics, pretty terrible. And what was my question when we first heard this stupid commercial last week where you have them saying, you can refuse an illegal order? Which illegal orders? What orders are actually illegal? And I mentioned at the time that TMZ had Alyssa Slotkin on. TMZ, not exactly known for their hard-hitting political analysis. TMZ asked her which orders are illegal. And she did this word salad rambling nonsense because she couldn't actually name which orders were illegal. Well, guess what? She was asked that question again today. Here's what she said.
So let's talk right now. Do you believe President Trump has issued any illegal orders? To my knowledge, I am not aware of things that are illegal, but certainly there are some legal gymnastics that are going on with these Caribbean strikes and everything related to Venezuela.
Whoa, 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 whoa. So what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? You can't actually name anything you think they are being ordered to do that is illegal. Again, what is this whole nonsense? It was so Alyssa Slotkin can get her name in the media. Do you remember what she used to do? CIA analyst. Oh, you mean it was all a psyop to get PR so people know who she is? Now everybody knows who Alyssa Slotkin was. Mike, how long do you figure it's going to be until all of a sudden we see her running for president or running for higher office? That was the goal. So which things are illegal? You can't actually name any of them. But this is what they're going to do now. They threw out the bait. They threw the chum in the water, and Trump went for it. He 100% did. He should have said, he should have called their bluff. What am I doing that's illegal? Tell me what I'm doing that's illegal. And that would have shut this whole thing down. Then he would have had the best of both worlds because everybody's yelling and screaming at what the Democrats did, but he is free from blame, and he can call them out and say, what did I do that is illegal? They can't actually name it. I mean, she couldn't do this in the TMZ interview, not exactly the hardest political interview she's ever going to have. She couldn't do it with ABC. What order is illegal? And if you have a problem with something that's illegal, you challenge it in court. But now you're saying bombing the drug runners, taking out the drug runners, that's illegal? We have a war against drugs, lady. He can do this. What have you guys done to stop the drug trade? What have you guys done? We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Stilgar in Bellevue. Stilgar, what's up, man?
Hey, kids these days, I tell you what. So, I started working to make money at 10 because I didn't have anything. But I think what's going on with this generation is that they see their parents where they are at 45, say, or 50, and think, well, that's where adults are. That's what adult living is supposed to be, and I'm not there at 18 or 20. So they feel like they're getting the short shrift, when in fact it took their parents 25, 30 years to get there. And so, but they're seeing where they are now and not realizing where they were when they were their age.
I think that's a good point. I think what's happening is they're so the me, my, now generation. They don't realize how many years it takes to build up that kind of wealth. I mean, my house, I am very blessed that I live in a very nice house. But it took years to do that. I mean, I bought this house way back for, I'm not even going to say the number, but it was so cheap, it's ridiculous. In Seattle proper, bought this house, and we added to it, and we added to it, and we added to it, and we added to it. Took years to do that. Literally took years to do that. And there's pictures of my kids at various points in the construction of it. But, now they probably think that's how the house always was, unless they look back at those pictures. So, it's a matter of they don't realize how much time it takes.
Well, I don't know if you follow El Gato Malo on Substack, but I would highly recommend it. But he was looking at the statistics and the numbers, and this generation is actually doing better than the previous generations. They just don't see it.
They have to, here's the thing, they don't have to work as hard because they have technology helping them. The question is, can they leverage technology rather than just looking at Instagram all day? Can they use technology? Think of the groundbreaking research and discoveries they could be doing if instead of having ChatGPT do their homeworks, they use it as a research assistant as a kid. Bill Gates didn't have that. Jeff Bezos didn't have that. None of these guys had that. But this is the kind of stuff they could be doing if they use the technology. I always say all the time about the kids, they have the knowledge of the universe at their fingertips, in their pocket, and they're using it to Snapchat. That's what they're doing with it. Stilgar, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, another powerful speech by another teenage girl who's got more guts than Bob Ferguson, Chris Rakedahl, and Nick Brown combined. But before we get to any of that, time for Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, download the KVI app and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. That way, you never miss a minute of the show. While you're subscribing, remember to rate and share it so that way your friends can enjoy the show as well. I've been talking about the whole show today about the event that Let's Go Washington did yesterday out in Issaquah to get people to sign the initiatives to protect girls' sports from boys and to make sure that there are parents' rights so parents know what's going on with their kids at school. This is the second time I have heard Frances Stout speak. That name might sound familiar to you. Brandy covered this story when it happened. Our friend Brandy Cruz over at the Undivided Podcast. Frances Stout sat out a basketball game rather than playing against a biological male. That's not fair to her. It's dangerous playing basketball. You remember in the 80s and 90s? I haven't watched basketball in a long time, Mike. Maybe somebody can set me straight. You know when somebody accidentally gets elbowed in the nose and they have to wear that whole brace for weeks afterwards, that whole face thing? I don't know if they still do that or not with all concussion protocols or anything else they do. But it's dangerous. Basketball may not be a contact sport, but there's contact. Plus, it's not fair. It's absolutely not fair. Why shouldn't she get to enjoy sports? And as I said at the time, she's not just fighting for the girls who want trophies and medals and want scholarships. She's also fighting the girls who do it for fun. She's fighting for the girls who do it for credit. Frances Stout gave an amazing speech, not just this Sunday, but last Sunday when I was out at Gig Harbor at another Let's Go Washington event. Yesterday's speech was so powerful because she called out Bob Ferguson, Chris Reykdal, and Nick Brown. Give a listen to what Frances Stout said.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Frances Stout. I am here today to ask you to support in signing these two initiatives and also make aware of what is going on in Washington State. There seems to be a few misconceptions about the narrative surrounding Title IX, as well as the threats that women are facing in sports and public spaces. Last February, when I was 15 years old, there was an 18-year-old man in my locker room. He was also playing against my team in our girls' basketball game. I chose to sit out and not to play. When I expressed my concerns to my principal, Zach Suderman, as well as my athletic director, Jordan McGrath, I was told by them that my feelings did not matter and that they were not going to admit or even acknowledge that this was a boy on the opposing team, nor do anything to stop it. As a result of me calling this person a man, I was investigated by the Tumwater School District and the WIAA for harassment and bullying and for misgendering this individual. Let me tell you all, there are only two genders, and that's male and female. It gets worse. My own school guidance counselor, Anna Bush, publicly came out against me in a letter to the district as well as the teachers union and other teachers, coaches, and administrators at my school, posting several social media posts against me. I was called horrible names that I won't repeat. I was told I was going to hell, had people threatening to show up at my house, and had lost many so-called friends. I was told by my principal if I ever did so much as say anything like this again, I would be subject to further discipline and progressive consequences. Sadly, I've also had adults come up to me in private telling me they support me, but are too scared to say something as they are worried about their job. Imagine being a 15-year-old girl going to school each day, knowing these people who are supposed to be there for me were not only not there for me, but were publicly coming out against me. Let me tell you, it's an awful feeling and should never happen, not to me and not to anyone. When the voice belongs to a young woman like myself, who dares to stand up to autocrats such as Governor Bob Ferguson, Attorney General Nick Brown, and State Superintendent Chris Reykdal, the agenda shifts, only serving a protected class who go along with their radical ideology. This leads to the biggest lie of all, that us women will be pushed out of the spaces that we occupy without a fight. Washington is in desperate need of immediate intervention, as the individuals I previously mentioned will do everything in their power to push radical gender ideology into our schools, interfere with healthy family structures, silence free thinking and debate, and remove religion from the public square. With this, they'll threaten anyone who gets in their way with frivolous allegations and lawsuits. Chris Reykdal, a grown man who is so threatened by the truth, he literally looks the people of Washington in the face to tell them there are more than two genders and that this is not even an issue. as it affects such a small percentage of students. What about me, Chris Reichdahl? It has affected me. You stand up for your supporters who call a 15-year-old girl a bully, liar, and bigot. How dare you? Yes. My own principal, Zach Suderman, has thanked those who support this 18-year-old man who is in my locker room for their advocacy while threatening with me with further discipline. What about me, Zach Suderman? Men should not be participating in women's sports, and biological boys and men should not be in my locker room or in my bathrooms. Go ahead and investigate me all you want. I dare you. I won't back down. And if there is another boy in my locker room or playing against me on one of my teams, you better believe I will not stay quiet. And you can use your woke idea of progressive consequence threat against me all you want. I'm calling on all of you to stand with me. You don't have to be an athlete, you just have to have common sense. Even the boys who are outraged can stand with me and believe that they know this is wrong and do something about it. It is the job of mothers, fathers, grandparents, coaches, teachers, and American citizens to protect our girls both physically as well as constitutionally under the First and 14th Amendments. I'm encouraging you all to sign the initiative, which will protect fairness in girls' sports. I'd like to thank my friends at Let's Go Washington who are doing great work in trying to get this initiative passed. I also want to thank Brandy Cruz, as well as Fox News, Glenn Beck, Jen Say with XXXY Athletics, and Family Policy Institute of Washington, as well as other media outlets who have been able to be an advocate for the truth and given me platforms to do so on multiple occasions. It is us who will be the turning point in this country. No riots, mockery, threats, or violence will penetrate our minds. We are based in faith, righteousness, and truth, and this is a foundation not easily shaken. As a 16-year-old girl, I have enough belief in my principles to willingly subject myself to the harshest criticism, threats, and evil intentions. How interesting that it has only propelled me to greater heights. Today, I'm asking you to do the same. You have the power to speak out regardless of your age, job, religion, social status, or gender. You don't need to be a politician, professor, or expert. You need to have the bravery to look a lie in the face and choose not to accept it. The truth is, biological men have an advantage over women. They're stealing trophies from the women who have dedicated their lives to earning them, and we must stop pretending that people like Bob Ferguson and Chris Reichdahl care for our children. They champion these causes and villainize those who try and get in their way. What have they done for me? What have they done for you? And what will they try and do to your children? Taking away parental rights is of the utmost importance to them. And when they silence their voices as parents, we have lost. Washington Democrat Senate Majority Leader Jamie Peterson just said, and I quote, "Parents don't have right to have notice. They don't have right to have consent about their child's health care decisions. If parents don't, who does?" This problem is not going away. Men will continue to have the medals placed around their necks, but it is us girls who feel the weight on our shoulders. I pray that each one of you will find the courage within yourselves to speak out, have the conversations around the dinner table about what is right and what is wrong. Teach your children that they will never be in trouble for speaking up in a respectful manner, regardless of culture's consequences. Pray for those who are confused and vulnerable. Pray for our schools and pray for our country. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, "For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline." Don't be timid. You have all the tools you need to make a difference. You may feel small, but don't forget, the silent majority is awakening, and we are bigger than you have ever seen before. Let me end by saying this. Governor Ferguson, Chris Reichdahl, and Nick Brown, we see right through you. And what we see is gutless men trying to stifle the voices of young women. I may be 16 years old, but I have way more guts than you'll ever have. We're not going to stand for it anymore. I'm calling your bluff, and I'm exposing the lies that you tell over and over, and I refuse to share my locker room with the boys and men or be kicked out or punished for doing so. I will not be stopped, and what you've done to me is wrong. I'm calling on President Trump to please take note about what is going on in Washington state. We need you, President Trump, to please put these out-of-touch politicians in their place and stop this nonsense. I won't stop. I won't stop, and I'm asking everyone listening to fight with me. Fight, fight, fight. We will not stand down.
I didn't play any of my speech from yesterday because her speech was better. I didn't play any of my speech from yesterday because Anna Lee Wilson's speech, which we played earlier in the show, was better than mine. Those two 15, 16-year-old girls have more guts than the gutless men like Bob Ferguson, Nick Brown, and Chris Reichdahl. You guys are standing up for men in women's sports? What the hell's wrong with you? Especially Bob Ferguson. You have a daughter who plays softball. You have a daughter who you brag about on social media all the time who plays baseball that you're very proud of, who goes to private school and doesn't have to deal with the nonsense you're subjecting these girls to. Shame on you, you gutless coward. And kudos to these girls who call it exactly like it is. You know, they should just be playing sports. I shouldn't know their names. I shouldn't have ever had to have heard their names. But because of your insanity, these girls now have to go to political rallies as opposed to working on their sports. That's because you guys are gutless cowards. 100% right. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, what Patty Murray is trying to do to make schools around here worse. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Has the University of Washington wised up from what they allowed in 2023 and 2024? Well, a new report from Como News says they have. Give a listen to the story.
At 5, a shakeup over student discipline is underway at the University of Washington. Campus officials have called in outside help to review their conduct policies. Good evening, and thanks for joining us here at 5. I'm Preston Phillips. No specifics are being offered on what prompted the overhaul, but allegations of anti-Semitism and politically motivated property damage are ongoing concerns. Como's Joel Moreno live tonight at UW with what the school hopes to accomplish. Joel?
Yeah, Preston, the UW president wants to set clear expectations for all students and to be transparent about what will happen to students who fail to meet that standard. It is an effort to bring more accountability to instances of misconduct. The way disciplinary issues are handled at the University of Washington could undergo a top-to-bottom overhaul.
I feel as if UW does a better job than a lot of universities I've been to at addressing student needs in that respect. But I'm sure there are blind spots to that.
Campus officials have hired an outside law firm to evaluate the student conduct code, saying there were a number of issues not foreseen when the code was last updated 4 years ago.
It's good that they are looking into things like, in a sense of like keeping students safe.
The university has not specified what issues prompted the review, but earlier this year, pro-Palestinian student protesters and others took over a building and caused $1 million in property damage while calling for UW to divest from companies supporting the Israeli military. 34 people were arrested, but so far, no one has been criminally charged.
It's a really touchy topic, and it's something hard to comment on because they were doing what they believed in.
Last year, a pro-Palestinian encampment persisted for weeks. Jewish students complained about a series of anti-Semitic incidents tied to the camp.
It's a question of higher up organization meets students, right? And students will do what students will do and organizations will react.
Campus officials say the review is not about any specific case, but rather policies and practices overall. They say they want to set clear expectations and hold students accountable when appropriate. Students say transparency is good, so long as it doesn't try to silence independent thinking.
I think a beauty of this campus is people being able to represent things that they believe in.
Yeah, the goal is to have this disciplinary review completed by the end of next year and then begin the process of implementing any recommendations that come out of it. Reporting live, Joel Marino, Como News. All right.
You need a review to tell you that when people break the law, you arrest them? Why is that so hard? The $1 million worth of damage to the engineering building that Boeing sponsored, you still haven't charged anybody, and the holdup is with the University of Washington Police Department. That's where the holdup is. And you guys had plenty of warning before this. For example, you had a bunch of people that were arrested for taking over the administration building in December of 2023, and you dropped all the charges. You had students that were vandalizing the campus long before what happened in that engineering building. You had that Gaza encampment where Jewish students were being assaulted, harassed, you name it. You didn't do anything about it. You had faculty participating in it and proudly on camera doing it. Instead, you brought in the guardrails. You brought in the barricades to protect the encampment. Why is it so hard to say, if you break the law, you're expelled? Why is that so hard? And you heard what they said where the last time they updated these was 4 years ago? So you updated them after the George Floyd riots? And you still didn't enforce anything? What were the updates you made? To allow them to riot more? Make no mistake about it. This is probably because the Trump administration is a coming knocking. And when they do, even if UW makes all the changes in the world, it doesn't solve what happened in the past. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into the evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And Mike found this very entertaining article that I said our audience will love this one. Fox 13 had it, which talks about how much money Kevin McAllister's New York City vacation, his trip, would cost in 2025. Now, what's funny is they did the cost adjusted for inflation from 1992. Apparently, in 1992, his trip would have cost $2,109 just for the hotel, the airfare. That's it. Oh, and the feast in the hotel that you see. That's it. So that doesn't cover the cabs. That doesn't cover going to the top of the World Trade Center, which, all right, let's call it the Freedom Tower today, which I happen to know that's pretty pricey. Nowadays, his price would cost $8,511. No wonder the dad is mad about the room service bill he gets at the end of the movie. At least you get all the free toys from the fake FAO Schwartz guy, who he stopped the break-in of that. At least you get all the free toys for everybody. A Plaza Hotel suite would rise to $6,244 and his lavish room service feast to $2,233. Director Chris Columbus said Kevin's well-off parents were imagined as a fashion designer mom and someone likely working in advertising or a lawyer dad. New analysis by iSelect.com, a travel insurance comparison service, revealed the true 2025 price of Kevin's New York City escape using pricing from the Plaza Hotel, inflation data, and updated menu costs. However, they do acknowledge that likely your travel insurance would be voided for a minor traveling by themselves. How much is the Talk Boy, by the way? I wanted one of those suckers. I remember I wanted the Talk Boy so I could make people say things they didn't say. That handheld Walkman thing that he had from Sony. What was that thing, like $200 back then? When you could have gotten a dictaphone that your father probably had lying around the house that he didn't use. You could have done the same thing with that. That's right. They don't even include that in the costs. Or giving food to the pigeon lady. That kind of stuff. Anywho, this did inspire me to ask ChatGPT how much money Kevin's parents probably made, adjusted for inflation. They believe that in 2025, Kevin's parents need to be making upward of $1 million a year to afford the lifestyle you saw in the Home Alone movie. Now, here's the calculations based on the 1990s. The house sold in 2012 for $1.585 million. In today's dollars, it's roughly between $2.5 and $3 million. To be making that much money and live in Highland Park, Chicago, it's not technically Chicago, Highland Park, Illinois, you need to be making between $400,000 and $600,000 a year back then, but now they think it's upwards of $1 million. Let's not forget, he took the whole family to Paris. The whole family to Paris. Some of them were in first class. You're talking about $22,000 to $30,000 just for the airfare. Another $25,000 in lodging expenses. And let's not forget, that doesn't include trying to get back home and being stuck in wherever they were stuck in. Trying to get back home and probably the last minute change fees you had to do for that airfare on the holiday weekend. They say their property tax bill is likely between $40,000 and $60,000 a year just on that house. The estimates are that Kevin's father, Peter McAllister, made somewhere between $450,000 and $900,000 a year, and Kevin McAllister's mom, Kate, was likely a fashion designer or small business owner, shown in Home Alone 2, earning between $80,000 and $150,000 a year. Now, when you update all this information, it even goes through the roof. Really, it's just beyond crazy how much money this family is raking in, but good on them. Good on them. I did like that. Was it an insurance commercial that came out recently with Kevin at home? That was a pretty well done one. I wonder what the liability is for setting traps in your house, because we know that robber who broke into that person's house, who managed to stab himself with a knife in the kitchen that was left out, somehow that guy was able to sue the family. I did like that video I saw. Mike, what was this, like 3-4 years ago? They had a video on YouTube where they had doctors commenting on how dead the robbers would be if they fell for all the traps in Home Alone. That was pretty entertaining. They're like, oh yeah, Gets his scalp burned off. That dude's dead. Fell down the stairs. That dude's dead. Get hit in the head with a pipe, then fall down the stairs. That dude's dead. Get hit in the head with a brick. Dead. Super dead. Death. Horrible death. Everywhere in that movie. Oh, yeah, those movies still hold up, by the way. I can watch them with my kids, and they'll still crack up at the same points I cracked up during. I remember there was for a short time a video game, computer game, I should actually say, of Home Alone where you ran around the house setting the traps and then had the bad guys follow you through the house. I was very impressed with myself when I finally beat that game because it wasn't about the online playing back then. You actually had to beat the game, and they made it actually really hard, so you would keep playing the stupid game. Yeah, I really like that Home Alone game. What was funny was one time I tried to totally blow it. I put the traps in all these kind of weird places. They didn't work right. I was so disappointed. Luckily, I knew that movie by heart. I love the Home Alone movies, but as I call it, Die Hard for kids. One kid has to take on terrorists invading his house on Christmas. Yes, Home Alone is clearly Die Hard for kids. That's going to wrap it up for us today. But don't forget, if you want to see the insanity happening when we're not on the air, follow my social media, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on Twitter. We'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.